The challenge. The observation deck hummed with the usual sounds of the meridian, life support systems cycling air that tasted recycled, the distant thrum of engines pushing them through the Helix Nebula region where human and Vakari territories overlapped like feuding neighbors. Dr. Sarah Chen stood with her datapad, cataloging samples from the last planetary survey, when Lieutenant Cooper appeared with that expression that meant her quiet afternoon was about to become complicated. "Doc, we've got incoming," Cooper said. "Vakari military transport. Commander Rena is aboard for the Joint Species Initiative." "The program nobody thinks will work?" Sarah asked, not looking up from her samples. "That's the one. Command wants you there, since you're our xenobiology expert. Docking bay in 15 minutes. Sarah sighed and set down her work. The Joint Species Initiative was supposed to foster cooperation between humans and the Vakari Federation after decades of cold tension. In reality, it mostly fostered creative ways for both sides to insult each other while maintaining diplomatic protocols. The docking bay smelled like ozone and machinery. The Vakari shuttle landed with precision that suggested technology humans were still trying to understand. Sarah's small research team stood at attention, while Chief Kai muttered something about bureaucratic nonsense under his breath. The docking door opened, and Commander Rena stepped onto human deck plating like she owned it already. She moved with the fluid confidence of someone who'd never doubted their place in the universe. Her purple skin seemed to absorb and reflect the harsh overhead lights simultaneously, creating an almost luminescent effect. Those distinctive ridged features that marked Vakari warriors swept back from her forehead, and her amber eyes burned with an intensity that made Sarah's pulse quicken for reasons she didn't want to examine. Rena wore a Vakari combat dress, black material that looked ceremonial and dangerous. She carried herself with the posture of someone who knew exactly how lethal she was. Sarah stepped forward, extending her hand. "Commander Rena, welcome aboard the Meridian. I'm Dr. Sarah Chen, xenobiology specialist." Rena looked at the offered hand with an expression that combined boredom and contempt. She didn't take it. Those amber eyes traveled from Sarah's fingers up to her face with an assessment usually reserved for laboratory specimens. "Doctor." Rena's voice carried an accent that made standard speech sound like music wrapped in condescension. "I am told humans need education in proper physical conditioning. Looking at your crew, this appears accurate." Someone behind Sarah coughed. Probably Kai. "We're capable," Sarah said, lowering her hand and keeping her tone professional. "I'm sure we can learn from each other during this initiative." "You will learn. I am less certain what I gain from humans who move like they are fighting against their own bodies." Sarah felt her jaw tighten. "Well, lucky for you, we're very adaptable. You might be surprised." Rena's ridges shifted slightly, the Vakari equivalent of a smirk. "Perhaps. Show me to your training facilities. I wish to assess what passes for physical excellence among humans." "That's not really necessary. I insist, Doctor, unless you fear comparison." The challenge hung in the air. Cooper leaned close and whispered, "Doc, you don't have to." "The training facility is this way, Commander. Let's see what you've got." They reached the multi-purpose training chamber, a space that could adjust gravity and simulate various environmental conditions. A few off-duty crew members were using the equipment, but they quickly cleared out when Rena entered, word spreading fast that something interesting was about to happen. "Your equipment is primitive," Rena observed, examining the resistance machines, "but adequate for demonstration purposes. Tell me, Doctor, do you train or do you merely study those who do?" "I train," Sarah said, shedding her lab coat. "Not everyone in science spends all their time behind a microscope." "Then perhaps you will not embarrass yourself completely." The Vakari warrior's expression changed, those amber eyes focusing with new intensity. "This will be educational for you human."
The contest. The training circuit stretched before them like a gauntlet designed by someone who hated comfort. Resistance climbing, gravitational pull-ups, endurance running on variable terrain, and strength tests that measured raw power against mechanical resistance. Rena approached the first station with the confidence of someone who'd never met a physical challenge she couldn't dominate. "I will demonstrate proper form," Rena said, positioning herself at the climbing wall. "Watch carefully, Doctor. You may learn something before your inevitable failure." She ascended the wall like gravity was a suggestion rather than a law. Her purple skin gleamed under the training lights as muscles moved with mechanical precision. Each movement was economical, powerful, perfect. She reached the top in 42 seconds, dropped down without apparent effort, and turned to Sarah with that insufferable expression of superiority. "Your turn, human." Sarah approached the wall. Her heart hammered, but her mind was already working, analyzing what she just witnessed. Rena had raw power, yes, but she'd also used a predictable pattern, always reaching with her dominant side first, always placing her weight center mass. Sarah started climbing. She was slower, no question. Her muscles burned and protested, but she used different paths, leveraging angles rather than pure strength, finding holds Rena had ignored because she hadn't needed them. 58 seconds, respectable, but clearly inferior. As expected, Rena moved to the next station. "You try hard, I will grant you this, but trying and succeeding are different concepts." The gravitational pull-ups were brutal. The system increased resistance with each repetition, forcing participants to work against progressively heavier loads. Rena completed 15 before the system reached maximum resistance. Her form remained perfect throughout, those amber eyes never showing strain. Sarah managed 12. Her arms shook with effort, her scientist's body screaming that this was outside her job description. But she noticed something. Rena recovered quickly, almost too quickly, like someone who'd done this exact routine countless times. The endurance running came next. Variable terrain that shifted under their feet, simulating everything from sand to ice to rocky slopes. This was where Rena truly excelled. Her species had evolved for pursuit hunting. Her longer stride and efficient movement made her look like she was barely trying. Sarah fell behind immediately. Her lungs burned and her legs felt like they'd been replaced with lead. But she was watching, always watching. Rena had a rhythm, a pattern to how she adjusted for terrain changes. She anticipated the system's variations based on timing rather than randomness, because the system wasn't truly random. It cycled through program sequences. By the final station, pure strength resistance, Sarah was exhausted. Rena looked like she'd barely started. The purple warrior positioned herself at the machine, gripped the handles and pulled with force that made the mechanism groan. 200 kilograms, then 250, then 300 before she finally stopped, muscles defined and powerful beneath that purple skin. "Your turn, Doctor," Rena said, not even breathing hard, "though I think we both know how this ends." Sarah approached the machine on trembling legs. Her logical mind said she'd lost, said this was over, said she should accept defeat with dignity. But something else spoke louder. The memory of every time someone had underestimated her, every professor who doubted her, every colleague who assumed she was soft because she was a scientist. She gripped the handles. She pulled. Not with raw strength, because she couldn't match Rena there, but with technique, using her legs and core, breathing in controlled bursts, finding leverage in her positioning. 100 kilograms, 150, 200. "Enough," Rena said. "You have lost. Accept this with dignity." "Not done yet," she ground out, pulling harder. Her vision narrowed, everything fading except the machine and her refusal to quit. 220, 230. "Dr. Chen," Cooper called from the observation area, "you don't have to." Sarah pulled harder, remembering every calculation she'd made while watching Rena. The Vakari warrior was stronger, faster, more experienced, but she'd shown her patterns, revealed her rhythms, approached everything with the confidence of someone who'd never needed strategy because raw ability had always been enough. Sarah released the machine and turned to face Rena. "I want a different challenge." "You lost. The contest is complete." "No, that was your contest. I want one that tests more than raw strength." "Explain." Sarah moved to the neural reflex station, a system that tested reaction time and pattern recognition. This, simultaneous competition. First person to complete the pattern sequence wins. Not about strength, about adaptation. Rena's amber eyes narrowed. "You change the rules because you are losing." "I'm changing the game because you stack the deck. This is a research vessel, Commander, not a military ship. If you want a real test, try something that requires more than muscle memory." For a long moment, Rena just stared at her.
Then something shifted in those amber eyes. Curiosity maybe, or respect for audacity. "Very well, 1 round. If I win, you acknowledge Vicari's superiority. If you somehow win, I honor the original wager." They positioned themselves at adjacent terminals. The system would display increasingly complex patterns that had to be replicated through a combination of physical movement and mental processing. It was designed to test pilots and researchers, not warriors. "Ready?" Sarah asked. "I am always ready," Rena replied. The patterns began, simple at first, then rapidly increasing in complexity. Sarah's fingers flew across the interface, her body moving through the physical components while her mind tracked multiple variables. This was her environment, where her scientific training became advantage. Rena was fast, incredibly fast, but Sarah saw her hesitating as patterns grew more abstract. The warrior's strength meant nothing here. Her combat training didn't help with mathematical sequences disguised as movement exercises. Sarah's score climbed. Her body moved on instinct, while her conscious mind solved problems. She was dimly aware of Rena beside her, matching her pace, then falling slightly behind. The patterns accelerated, becoming almost impossibly complex. Sarah's hands cramped. Her exhausted muscles protested, but she pushed through, driven by something beyond stubbornness. She wanted to win, needed to win, not just for herself, but for every human aboard whom Rena had dismissed. The final pattern flashed. Sarah completed it, looked over. Rena was still working, those amber eyes wide with concentration. The purple warrior's hands moved with desperate speed, but... Complete. Sarah's terminal flashed green. 2 seconds later, Rena's did the same. The training chamber was absolutely silent. Rena stood motionless, staring at the terminals like they'd betrayed her. Her amber eyes moved from her screen to Sarah's, processing what just happened. "You won," Rena said, her voice carrying none of its usual arrogance, just flat statement of fact. "I did," Sarah said, her legs threatening to give out. Rena touched her terminal screen, verifying the results with her own eyes. Her expression shifted through several emotions too quickly for Sarah to read. Finally, she looked directly at Sarah. "You win. I have never lost. First time for everything, Commander." The purple ridges flattened against her skull, surrender posture among her people. "I will honor my word. Tonight, I will teach you about Vicari culture." She paused, those amber eyes holding something Sarah couldn't name. "Intimately, as tradition demands." Sarah's heart hammered for entirely different reasons now. "You don't have to." "A wager made with witnesses must be honored." Sarah Mithe Sila. "I will come to your quarters at 2000 hours. Prepare yourself, doctor. What I teach will be thorough." She turned and walked out of the training chamber, her back straight despite defeat, leaving Sarah standing there with her exhausted body and racing mind, wondering exactly what she just won. Cooper appeared at her elbow. "Doc, what just happened?" "I have no idea," Sarah admitted, "but I think I need a shower and possibly a medical scan before 2000 hours." "You're actually going through with it?" Sarah watched the doors where Rena had disappeared. She honored her word by showing up for the challenge. "I can do the same." She paused. "Besides, I'm curious. About Vicari culture?" "Among other things," Sarah said, already heading for her quarters.
The revelation. Sarah's quarters had never felt smaller. She'd showered, changed into off-duty clothing that seemed simultaneously too casual and too formal, and spent 20 minutes rearranging furniture that didn't need rearranging. The ship cycled into evening rotation, lights dimming to simulate circadian rhythms. At exactly 2000 hours, the door chimed. Sarah keyed it open. Rena stood in the corridor, still in her combat dress, but something about her posture was different. Less aggressive, more uncertain. Those amber eyes held an expression Sarah hadn't seen before. Vulnerability, maybe, or curiosity about uncharted territory. "Commander," Sarah said, her voice steadier than she felt. "Doctor." Rena didn't move, didn't enter, just stood there like she was reconsidering every decision that had led to this moment. "Would you like to come in?" Sarah asked. "I can offer you water, or something stronger if your biology processes alcohol the way ours does." Rena glanced down the corridor, then stepped inside. The doors sealed behind her with a soft hiss, cutting them off from the ship, the crew, the complications waiting outside. The quarters felt even smaller with her presence filling the available space. They stood awkwardly, two people who'd known exactly what to do in competition, but had no manual for this. "You may sit," Sarah gestured to the small chair near her desk, "unless Vakari tradition requires something different." "Sitting is acceptable." Rena moved to the chair but remained standing, her posture rigid. "I honor my word, Doctor. I made a wager before witnesses. My people do not break such oaths." "I'm not going to hold you to something said in the heat of competition," Sarah said. "You were trying to provoke me. It worked. But nobody needs to do anything they don't want to do." Rena's ridges lifted sharply. Surprise again. "You would release me from my oath, even though your crew expects consequences." "My crew can expect whatever they want. I'm not interested in anyone being here because they lost a bet. That's not really my style." Rena was quiet for a long moment, those amber eyes steadying Sarah with an intensity that felt like being examined under microscope. Then she did something completely unexpected. She laughed. Actually laughed. A sound like chimes in a minor key, musical and genuine. "You are strange, Dr. Chen," Rena said, finally sitting. "You compete like you have everything to prove, then win and claim you want nothing. I do not understand humans." "Join the club. We don't understand ourselves either. It's basically our defining characteristic as a species." Rena accepted the water with both hands, a gesture that seemed formal, almost ritualistic. She took a small sip before setting it aside. "I came here to honor my oath, yes, but also because you intrigued me. You should not have won that final challenge." "I had one advantage you didn't." Sarah sat on the edge of her bunk. "I'm used to being underestimated. It gives you a different perspective on competition." "Underestimated?" Rena tilted her head, ridges shifting with interest. "Explain this." "I'm a scientist on a military research vessel, Commander. Every day someone assumes I'm soft because I work in a lab, that I can't handle physical challenges, that I'm here to study things while the real adults handle the dangerous work." I paused. "Sound familiar?" Something flickered in those amber eyes. "Among my people, I am considered small, weak by warrior caste standards. I have spent my entire life proving I am more than my size suggests, more than what others assume when they see me." "You've definitely succeeded. You're terrifying. In a good way, mostly." "You are not terrified. You made observations during our contest, analyzed my patterns, adapted your strategy. That is not fear. That is intelligence." "Can it be both?" Rena's expression softened slightly. "Tell me about your work, Doctor. What brings a xenobiologist to contested space?" Sarah hadn't expected the question. "Research. Understanding alien species. Finding common ground between different forms of life." She paused. "Turns out studying someone in a lab is easier than understanding them in person." "You study my people?" "Not specifically, but yes, I've reviewed Vakari biology. Your neural processing is fascinating. Did you know your brain chemistry allows for pattern recognition that's about 40% faster than human baseline? That's why you excel at combat. You process movement and threat assessment almost instinctively." "I did not know this." Rena leaned forward. "You can determine this from study." "Yes, from tissue samples and neural scans. But meeting you, competing with you, that teaches me things no laboratory can." "What have you learned?" I met her amber eyes directly. "That you push yourself harder than you push others. That you carry expectations from your people that weigh more than any physical challenge. That underneath all that warrior confidence, you're afraid of being seen as weak." Rena's ridges flattened completely. Exposed emotion. "How can you know this?" "Because I see it in myself. Different species, same pressure." For a long moment, neither spoke. The ship hummed around them, life support and engines creating ambient sound that filled silence. Rena's purple skin caught the low lighting, making her seem almost luminescent in the dimness.
I should not have lost today, Rena said finally. I will be questioned when I return home. Some will say I have brought shame to my family line, that I failed my purpose here. Or you proved that joint initiatives make sense because both sides bring different strengths. Perspective matters. You defeated me and now offer comfort. Rena's voice carried wonder. This is not how warriors behave. Maybe that's because I'm not really a warrior. I'm just someone who ended up in uniform and turned out to be decent at not giving up. You command respect from your crew. You defend your people's honor. You face challenges despite knowing you might fail. Rena stood, moving closer. You are warrior, Dr. Chen, whether you claim the title or not. Sarah looked up at her, acutely aware of how close Rena was standing, how her purple skin seemed to glow in the low light, and how those amber eyes held something beyond professional respect. Can we just be people tonight? Sarah asked quietly. Not warrior and scientist, not human and Vakari, not winner and loser, just two individuals trying to understand each other. Rena reached out slowly, her hand hovering near Sarah's face, waiting for permission. Sarah nodded slightly. Rena's fingers touched her cheek, warm and gentle, exploring features that were alien to her. I would like that, Rena said, her voice softer than Sarah had ever heard it. To just be people, to learn who you are beneath the roles we wear. Sarah's heart hammered as she stood, bringing them face to face. Then let's start over. I'm Sarah. I'm terrified of deep space, but fascinated by everything in it. I drink too much coffee and sometimes forget to sleep when I'm working. And I think you're the most incredible person I've ever met. Rena's ridges lifted. Pleasure. Surprise. I am Rena. I am afraid of failure more than death. I push others away because getting close means they might see my weaknesses. And I think you are the first human who has truly seen me. Their faces were inches apart now. Sarah could feel the heat radiating from Rena's purple skin, could see gold flecks in those amber eyes. Is this okay? Sarah whispered. Are we okay? I do not know, but I wish to find out. Sarah closed the distance between them. Their kiss was tentative at first, exploratory. Two individuals from different worlds discovering how to fit together. Rena's lips were warmer than Sarah expected, softer than seemed possible for someone so formidable. Sarah's hands found Rena's waist, feeling the difference in her physiology, the way her purple skin radiated heat through the material of her combat dress. Rena pulled back slightly, her breath quickening. I have never... with a human. I haven't either, Sarah admitted. With anyone not human, I mean. We can go slow, figure it out together. Slow. Rena seemed to taste the word, then smiled, genuinely smiled, showing teeth that weren't threatening now, just beautiful. I am not accustomed to slow. In combat, in life, I move fast or I fail. This isn't combat, Sarah said, running her hands up Rena's arms, feeling muscle and warmth. There's no failing here, just learning. Rena's hands found Sarah's face, cradling it with surprising gentleness. Her thumbs traced Sarah's cheekbones, her jawline, mapping features with the same intense focus she'd shown during competition. You are soft, she said, wonder in her voice. Human skin is so soft. Yours is warm, like touching sunlight. They kissed again, deeper this time. Sarah felt Rena's body relax against her, felt the warrior's control loosening, giving way to something more vulnerable. Rena's hands slid into Sarah's hair, her touch careful but possessive. Sarah guided them toward the bunk, their bodies learning each other's rhythms. Tell me about Vakari customs. You promised to teach me, remember? Rena's laugh vibrated against Sarah's lips. You wish to discuss culture now?
I'm a scientist. I'm curious about everything. Very well. Rena sat on the edge of the bunk, pulling Sarah down beside her. Among my people, physical connection is sacred. It is not casual. When warriors bond, it is declaration, acknowledgement of equals. Are we equals? Sarah asked. Today, you proved we are. You defeated me fairly. But more than this, you saw past my armor. You understood what I carry. That is rare. That is valuable. Sarah leaned in, resting her forehead against Rena's. I see you, she whispered. Not just the warrior. All of you. Rena's breath caught, and I see you, Sarah Chen, brilliant and stubborn, and braver than you know. Their next kiss held no hesitation. Sarah felt Rena's hands exploring, learning her body through clothing first, then beneath it. The purple warrior's touch was reverent, each caress deliberate and meaningful. Sarah responded in kind, discovering that Vicari's skin was more sensitive than human, that certain touches made Rena gasp and tremble. Your people, Rena breathed, as Sarah's lips found her throat. They bond face to face, yes, looking at each other. Usually, Sarah murmured against purple skin. This is good. Rena pulled Sarah closer, their bodies aligning. I wish to see your eyes, to know you are present, that this is real and not combat dream. They shed clothing with fumbling urgency, laughing at awkward moments, helping each other navigate unfamiliar biology. Rena's purple skin glowed in the dim light, her body athletic and powerful, but also graceful, beautiful in ways Sarah hadn't anticipated. Sarah felt suddenly self-conscious, average and ordinary compared to this warrior's physique. You are thinking too much, Rena said, hands steadying Sarah. I can see it in your eyes. You are comparing yourself to me. Hard not to, Sarah admitted. Look at me, Rena commanded gently, waiting until Sarah met her amber gaze. I see strength in you, not physical strength, though you have more than you claim, but strength of mind, of spirit. You faced me today, knowing you might lose. You face me now, knowing this is complicated. This is courage. This is what draws me to you. Sarah kissed her again, pouring emotion into it. Gratitude and desire and something deeper she wasn't ready to name. Their bodies moved together, sometimes fumbling, sometimes perfectly synchronized, learning and adapting. The warrior and the scientist, finding common ground in unexpected territory. When they finally collapsed together, breathless and tangled, Sarah felt something shift in her chest. This wasn't just physical release, wasn't just satisfying curiosity. This was connection, real and profound, cutting through species barriers and cultural differences. That was, Rena started, then laughed softly. I do not have words in standard speech. In my language, we would say tero kesh. It means roughly soul recognition, the moment when you truly see another and are seen in return. Tero kesh, Sarah repeated carefully. I like that. It's better than anything we have in English. Rena turned on her side, propping herself up on one elbow to look down at Sarah. Her purple skin still glowed faintly, her amber eyes soft with satisfaction. What happens now, Dr. Chen? We have crossed boundaries that will complicate everything. I know, Sarah admitted. Reaching up to trace the ridge along Rena's temple, your people won't approve. Mine will have concerns about fraternization and diplomatic complications. Yet I find I do not care about those things right now. Is this foolish? Probably. But I'm okay with being foolish tonight. Tomorrow we can worry about complications. Rena settled against her, their bodies fitting together despite anatomical differences, her head resting on Sarah's shoulder. Tomorrow, she agreed. But Tonight, we are just Rena and Sarah. Just two people who found something unexpected. Just two people. I can live with that. They lay together in comfortable silence, the ship humming around them, carrying them through contested space where their peoples watched each other with suspicion and carefully negotiated peace. But in this small quarters, borders didn't matter. Politics faded to background noise. There was only warmth and connection and the fragile beginning of something neither had anticipated. "I do not want to leave," Rena said quietly. "When morning comes, when we must return to being commander and doctor, I do not want this to end." "Then maybe it doesn't have to," Sarah said, knowing it was naive, knowing the complications waiting. "Maybe we figure out how to keep this, whatever this is. You would want this, despite the difficulties. I defeated you in competition. I'm pretty good with difficult challenges." Rena's laugh rumbled against her. "This is true. Very well. Sarah Chen, let us be foolish together. Let us keep this impossible thing and see what happens." They fell asleep eventually, wrapped around each other, warrior and scientist, purple and pale, two individuals who'd found connection across the void between stars.